can everybody see my presentation? Feel free to thumbs up. Claire's waving at me, so I'm going to assume that's fine. Welcome to Spirit of Partnership, how the Better Together for Healthy Bone Marrow Partnership fundraises together. I'm sure you'll agree that it's a pithy title, and it's going to be a pithy presentation. First of all, just want to big up Small Charity Week. There's such an amazing lineup of events this week, and I feel happy that we are first in the week, so that we can tell you all to go and register for more events. I'm definitely going to be attending some of the ones in the schedule. There's, I think I saw on Twitter, like over 100 events going on. There's some really cool stuff going on later in the week, so do have a look. Really useful learning, sharing between small charities. It's so nice to see about what everybody's up to. So yeah, do head over to smallcharityweek.com/events after this to see what else you want to see. Oh, my presentation has skipped there to number 17 for some reason, giving you a preview. There we go. What we're talking about. So we are here today to talk about the Better Together for Healthy Marrow project. Claire and I are going to talk for about half an hour about what that is and how we work together as a group of 7 small charities to raise money and achieve more. And then we're going to make sure we leave some time for Q&A at the end, because it's quite a complex project and you guys might want to dive into specific aspects of it. To give you a quick introduction, my name's Ellie Dawes. I'm currently interim CEO of the Aplastic Anaemia Trust. I am doing maternity cover for Stevie, who is our usual CEO. And in my normal guise, I am the head of comms and fundraising. Claire, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Claire Baggott, and I have been put in place as the Better Together project manager. So I'm responsible for the delivery plan for this whole project, and I work equally across all of the 7 charities, but I'm employed by the Aplastic Anaemia Trust.
So we just thought we'd run through at the beginning, because this has been named the Spirit of Partnership, some of the benefits that we think are really important about small charities working together and why we think it's great to do this kind of thing. Obviously, we can work more effectively by pooling ideas and resources, like as tiny charities doing similar stuff for different communities. We're doing a lot of double digging, so it minimises that kind of thing. We can learn from each other's successes and mistakes. We have a louder voice for our really small communities if we work together on campaigning and lobbying. We can apply for funding collaboratively from funders who want to encourage partnership and efficiency. And I know there might be some fundraisers in the room who have noticed funders prioritising that and new funds coming up for charities that are working together. We empower our small communities to feel like something bigger. So aplastic anemia is an ultra rare bone marrow failure. And it affects 2 in a million people, so people are unlikely to maybe even meet someone with the same condition as them, but by joining forces with 7 similar conditions, it enables them to feel like part of a community in that kind of empowering way. One-man band CEOs and leaders who are involved get to feel like they have colleagues to discuss ideas, contribute different skills and lighten the load. And of course, we can build a statistically significant evidence base to inform our work, which when we're serving a small community has been a real benefit for us of working collaboratively. Better Together. So the story so far. So in 2021, our charity CEOs were meeting regularly as a Together for Healthy Marrow Alliance on Zoom. And the organisations started talking about what we might be able to achieve together if we successfully applied for the National Lottery Community Partnerships Fund. The Aplastic Anaemia Trust grant fundraiser then spent, I think it was nearly a year, working with all the other partner charities to design the bid and apply. So come up with the things that we wanted to do if we received that funding. And in July 2022, we received confirmation that we would receive £575,000 funding over 3 years for Better Together for Healthy Bone Marrow from the National Lottery Community Fund. We are now just 10 weeks away from the end of year 1 of this 3-year project. So we are in a position to talk about how it's going. The partners, so our 7 charities range from an annual income of £1,000 to £223,000. So we're all small, but some of us are really like micro. The Aplastic Anaemia Trust is the only charity who have paid employees. We also have ultra rare conditions. So there is some crossover between the people we support. So for example, some people will be diagnosed with both PNH and aplastic anemia. And there are a lot of similarities, obviously, between our communities, but essentially they're quite distinct and they have slightly different needs because the conditions are different. The bid. So planning the project for the bid was a big undertaking, a significant investment. The partner charities decided on the priorities of our organisations. And then we had a brilliant bid writer called Bridget Waters, who worked with us, and she designed the project around our needs, adjusted, of course, to suit the National Lottery's funding priorities. So, for example, originally the project included a project to run a national community survey to collect that evidence base and learn about our needs. But we decided to separate out that aspect and have successfully raised £100,000 from farmer partners over 2 years to fund that as a separate, closely connected project, because we felt like we could take that out of the budget and raise that money from farmers. So we've done that separately. This is a quote from the bid. So because of Better Get Together for Healthy Bone Marrow, people affected by these rare bone marrow failures will be better informed, less isolated, and more connected and more resilient. Through the project, the partners will become stronger and more resilient organisations, better placed to work with and for their communities into the future. What's really important about that to highlight is that the partners ourselves and our organisations are direct beneficiaries of this project. And that's written into the bid, and you'll see when Claire talks about the project in more detail how much this is designed to strengthen our organisations and make them better. How it works, so you might be wondering about the sort of nitty-gritty, so I sort of just put up a couple of slides, pictures from the bid. We have the Aplastic Anaemia Trust is the grant holder and partnership lead. So we have overall responsibility for the project. We report to the National Lottery and we manage the budget. And we employ the staff, which is just a sort of practical thing. As I said, we're the only people with paid staff at the moment. Then we have the Better Together for Healthy Bone Marrow steering group. That is the that has top level representatives from all of the partner charities, and that's where decisions are made about the project. Then we have the delivery team who are running the project, who I'll show you in a minute, and then we have the community reference group, which is a separate forum which contains representatives of people living with the conditions who are not connected with running the charity, which means that when we do the work and we sense check it, and when we're designing aspects of the project and the work, we're able to run that past the community as well as the people who are inside the organisation, which is a really important part of making the organisations better and stronger. This is how, just to show you this project delivery team graphic in terms of the number of people who are working on the project. Obviously, normally we have Stevie at the top, who's CEO, who's on maternity leave at the moment, and the partners. You can see the delivery team underneath Claire of the community support leave. We have a project support officer, a lead clinical psychologist who's on secondment from Maggie's, who we're also working with on the project. Maggie's are a large cancer charity. And the budget allows us to pay for their lead clinical psychologist to work with us a day a week to design that aspect of the project. We have an impact consultant, and then we have the representatives of all the other charities involved in that as well. I'm going to hand over now to Claire. In fact, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that she can have control.
Thank you. Right, let me just switch over. Has that worked okay?
Yep.
I can't see anybody now, so I'll just talk blindly at the screen. So I'm just going to cover some of the collaboration that we've been doing since we've secured the funding from Community Fund. And so in a nutshell, the Better Together project supports our 7 charities to grow and become more resilient and provides greater support to the communities that we're serving. And increasing resilience is a real key outcome for this project, and that's both in terms of the charities as organisations, but also for individuals within the communities. And I've just highlighted here the 4 sort of key components of the project that we've got. So centrally, we've got the project management function, and the project delivery team are providing both strategic and administrative support to all 7 of our charities, helping them to engage in the project fully. Then we've got 2 big frameworks that we've put in place. The emotional wellbeing framework, which I'll touch a bit more on in a moment. So this framework delivers community-facing emotional wellbeing support. And we've also got a monitoring and evaluation framework. And this gives us the tools to enable us to successfully evaluate the impact that we're having. And that's both at a charity level and at a community level. And also, as a partnership, we continue to collaboratively fundraise. And so we are delivering collaborative fundraising campaigns throughout the life of Better Together. So here I just wanted to shine a bit of a spotlight on our emotional wellbeing framework, which I think is one of the most exciting aspects of this project. So as Ellie said, we've got a lead clinical psychologist with us, and she's developed this framework to be adopted across all 7 charities. And what this means is that those running our 7 charities are now receiving clinical supervision and resilience coaching, so helping them in their roles in running their charities. We'll also be delivering emotional wellbeing information resources across the life of the project. These are for our communities and will include things like leaflets and online resources. We're incredibly excited that we're running a number of courses for our communities. And these aren't just for those who have the rare conditions that our charities support, but the extended family and support networks that those people have in place. So the courses that we're running at the moment include managing stress and uncertainty, mindfulness, and where now. As we've got 2 psychologists sitting within the delivery team, we're also lucky that we can provide counselling and other psychological support to community members where that might be needed. And the Better Together project means that all of these provisions are fully funded for our communities. And this is Super Rare, so just a little bit of an insight into our collaborative fundraising efforts. So Super Rare is an annual fundraising campaign that the Aplastic Anaemia Trust did before Better Together came to life. It runs in February and March each year. But what we did with Better Together is expanded this community fundraising campaign to include all 7 charities, and we'll be doing this in years 2 and 3 of the project as well. So for the collaborative effort, we created a new Super Rare brand, a joint website and a suite of social media assets. This allowed the partners to launch and manage the campaign throughout. Now, the brilliant thing about Super Rare is that it brings our communities together with joint fundraising events, and it allows those with very rare conditions to really feel like they're part of a bigger team, part of a bigger community. But what's important to highlight is that individual fundraisers, although we're working collaboratively, the individual fundraisers still choose the one specific charity that they want to fundraise for. And I think that's a really important component of collaborative fundraising. And so, excuse me, Super Rare 2023 raised over £32,000 across our 7 charities, which is absolutely phenomenal. And we have incredibly high hopes for what the 2024 campaign can achieve as a result. So one of the things that sits at the heart of the Better Together project is sharing generously, and that's both across the alliance partners, but also sharing learning externally, like we're doing here today. So it takes various forms, and we're always looking for new ways to do so. So far, the things we've done in this space are sharing our skills and knowledge across the alliance partnership. A really good example of this would be family days. So a few of our alliance partners are really experienced in running very successful annual or biannual family days or conferences. This is in-person events bringing community members together. A number of our partners haven't done anything in this space and are looking to do so as part of Better Together. And it just means that we can share that knowledge, share that experience, and provide a blueprint so that the organisations that are coming to this newly aren't starting from a blank sheet of paper, which is really valuable. We've also been sharing resources such as templates or policies and procedures and how-to guides. So we've done quite a bit of space in the fundraising area in this, and there'll be more that follows throughout the life of the project. A number of our partners also provide webinars for community members, and we've been lucky enough that these have been opened up so they can be shared across the Alliance partnerships. Recent examples include webinars on employment rights and benefits advisory services. So as you can see, themes like that, they're applicable across the 7 charities because they're not specific to individual health conditions. And then sharing contacts and networking opportunities. So obviously between the 7 organisations, there's a lot of opportunities to tap into, and we can really build on this when we start thinking about growing our resilience. And so, yeah, the next thing to think about is sustainability and resilience. So one of the things that we need to be really mindful of with this 3-year project is what happens when Better Together comes to an end in its current form. So it's really important that each of the charities grows in a sustainable way, and that they're building to better support their communities well beyond the life of this project. So when this project in its current form comes to an end in the summer of 2025, we don't want to see that community support drops off and the ways that the charities have grown is no longer sustainable when they haven't got that sort of central project management function in place. So one of the key things that we're doing to work on this is we're putting together resilience plans for each of our alliance partners, and this will really map out where each of the partners are now, where they want to be, and the steps that they need to take in order to get them there. And the really brilliant thing about the resilience plans is this is the part of the project that allows us to really tailor our deliverables to each of the individual partners. As you can imagine, getting a project like this off the ground involves quite a lot of work, and we had to put in the central framework such as the emotional well-being and monitoring and evaluation. And that's really taken a lot of the year 1 time and effort. But in years 2 and 3, we really want to be building this project so that we're specifically tapping into the needs of the 7 organisations and tailoring the outputs so that we can really help them achieve their goals over the next 2 and a bit years. And then we've also got our monitoring and evaluation framework. So this is helping us to build our resilience in itself, allowing us to look at our events and our service provisions and seeing how effective they are. But it allows us to demonstrate the value we're adding to our community. And this will hopefully feed into other things which will allow us to successfully secure future funding, whether that be collaboratively or individually for each of the 7 organisations. So one of the things that we thought might be useful to share is just some of the insight from the partners. So if you're thinking of forming, an alliance collaboration similar to this, or if you've been invited to join one, these insights might be useful things to think about to do as part of that activity. So I've got some quotes here that I'd like to share with you. So the partnership has given us hope that we are not alone in this journey. We have had help from our partners with sharing experiences. And then with our fundraising campaign, the Super Rare website and its brand is beautiful, and it's brilliant to have a look and brand for the charities to use to communicate as a partnership. Better Together has provided opportunities for community members to get involved in projects. And it's great to have some support from others in a job that often feels quite lonely, trying to do everything and solve all the problems ourselves. And I think this really taps into one of my favourite things about this project is that we are 7 small and micro charities. You know, some of these charities, all of the running of the charity falls to 1 or 2 individuals. And I think just extending that sense of having colleagues is a really valuable part of what this project brings. And again, I think this links nicely into this quote here. Running a virtual organisation can feel quite lonely, and I have greatly appreciated the opportunity to discuss issues with Alliance members, many of whom have made helpful suggestions that have made a material difference. As a very small charity, we would not have been able to mount a bid for a significant community fund grant that is now providing a number of direct benefits to both our charity and our community. I have been able to access resources within the project team, both to help short-term with resource shortfalls and to help ensure that our charity is sustainable in the longer term. So we're just going to provide some sort of reflection points now. So again, this is hopefully really useful if you're thinking of collaborating or you've been invited to collaborate in a partnership. And I've broken this down into 2 bits. So firstly, from the project management side of things that might be useful to think about. And then we've also sought some input from our alliance partners, so things that they would recommend you think about in joining a partnership like this. So firstly, there is big benefit in working together to secure funding instead of competing for it. And, you know, further from securing the community fund grant, this is continued into our collaborative community fundraising in Super Rare, and it doesn't bring competition for funds. And I think that's a really important aspect of collaborative fundraising. Consider differences in capacity. So it's really important to think about the fact that volunteer-run organisations need sufficient time to engage with things and sign things off. So it has been really valuable to ensure that a project such as this provides administrative support to those partners to help them fully engage. Respect and anticipate differences in culture and approach. I think it's really important that you stay mindful of the fact that the purpose of collaboration is not to make us all the same, but to build on the individual strengths that exist and share those where it's useful to do so. And definitely have a clear plan, a clear project delivery plan, and with buy-in from everybody. And this should include formal partnership agreements. So take the time to get these right, make sure that everybody knows what they've signed up for and that they are all in and fully committed. I think with a collaborative fundraising effort like this, it could be tempting to bring more organisations along, but it would be worth flagging that any disengaged partners would really take a lot of work to bring them with you. As I've said before, then getting this project off the ground has been quite a lot of work, so you really need everybody going in the same direction and wanting to achieve the same thing. And so then these are some reflection points from the alliance partners, things to think about if you might like to join one. So think about the makeup of the alliance. So think about that carefully. There needs to be sufficient common ground to make the investment worthwhile. So spend the time exploring what this might be. It could be a common aspect to a medical condition, providing mental health and wellbeing support, improving fundraising capability where communities supported are really small, or lobbying for changes in practice or law. And here has been flagged, it's really helpful to have a larger organisation with paid staff as the alliance lead. So otherwise an alliance can just mean that you've got a small number of organisations that are run by volunteers and then not having the resources to cope with the additional work that's involved with getting this project off the ground or running it on an ongoing basis. So having one organisation with staff therefore really helps. And I think this point is a really valuable one. So there is an investment in time required in joining an alliance, but the rewards are proportional to the amount of effort put in. So viewing the experience positively will allow all the people to get the most out of the alliance and using it to help solve the issues that may have been making life challenging for their charity previously. So some really, really useful insights, I think, there from the partner perspective. And so drawing to a close, just to highlight that we really are better together, collaboratively, securing funding from the National Lotteries Community Fund has allowed Better Together to bring some incredibly exciting opportunities to our alliance partners. It does involve a lot of hard work, but this hard work brings with it huge benefits. We've seen an extended network of a sense of colleagues in a small and micro charity setting. We are building huge benefits to our collective communities, and really importantly is the prospect of improved resilience for our organisations to ensure that these charities can more sustainably support our communities into the future. And that just leaves us to ask if you've got any questions for us. So I will stop sharing my screen and come back to you.
I was on mute. Thank you, Claire. I'm astounded to have so many people here, actually. I thought that this was right at the start of the week and we're going to have a really small group. So it's really lovely to have so many people here. We'd love to hear about your questions, and also, if you have anything to share about how you've been collaborating with other organisations that might be interesting. We'd love to hear about that as well. Would anyone like to put their hand up, either physically or oh, thank you for the comment in the chat saying it was fascinating. Huge well done on what you've achieved. That's really lovely. Thank you to whoever that is from Steel Bones. If anyone would like to chat to us or ask us questions afterwards, or like ask us about how you might like specifically achieve this with your organisations, we're really happy to chat. Do drop us an email, contact us on Twitter. We should have a slide for that. I'll put our emails in the chat. Does anyone have any questions now? Sal?
Can I just ask, like, where are the 7 charities based? How did you all know each other beforehand? How did that come about? And I know you said you're going to do the resilience packs to kind of ensure continuation afterwards. What's the plan? Are you all going to stay in touch? Are you going to carry on having meetings and things? Just wondering about that, please.
Great question. So I can take, well, we are all fully remote as organisations. So we're all, something that I should have said that we have in common actually. So we're all national organisations supporting rare communities. So we're all quite used to having to support people from all over the UK. So it's all been very online. Stevie was CEO when the alliance started, and the alliance, by which I mean we just started having regular meetings about how what everyone was working on. I'm not sure who was the initial impetus for that. It might have been Stevie, it might have been some of the other colleagues, but the CEOs just sort of started meeting regularly and started inviting others who had it in common. And sorry, what was the other question that you asked about the future and the sustainability?
Yeah, obviously you all met, so that's great, and that's kind of what you collectively or decided this bid was the right fit for you guys. And I'm just wondering, moving forward, would you carry on kind of keeping the alliance even though you're not doing the project?
I think definitely. I think it'll be what's the next thing? What's the next thing that we keep? And like Claire might speak to this, but so much of what we're running is collaborative stuff. You know, the stuff that we've put in place that we want to keep funding and keep doing and keep improving. I would anticipate that the annual fundraising campaign, Super Rare, would keep going, and then after 2 years of that, having that supportive funding, we might be bringing in community fundraising from that we know can keep some of that other stuff going, and there might be other funding that we can apply for, and we'll have this shared history together to show that we can work collaboratively, and we'll have the results of the survey as well. We'll have more of an evidence base to allow us to apply for more funding too. Do you want to add anything on sustainability?
Yeah, I think the resilience plans will definitely take both things into account. So it will be, you know, the sustainability of the charities as individuals, but as Ellie said, the alliance existed before the project existed, and I think there's definitely an appetite for the small charities to carry on working together. And yeah, I know our grants and trust manager at the Aplastic Anaemia Trust has already got it in mind as to what she might be looking for as we end the sort of latter part of this project, as to how we could carry on working together.
Emma from Steel Bones.
Hiya, thank you ever so much. That's really fascinating. You know, when everyone met together, the CEOs, how long did it take until you started to think about the application for the partnership?
So I'm not sure exactly because I wasn't there, but I believe it was like a year. You know, the partnership didn't start with a view to applying for the National Lottery. It was there anyway. It was already, because we already thought it was egg. It was the egg before the chicken. The egg was valuable. Like, everybody was like, oh, we're all doing the same stuff. We've got similar community need. Instead of us all doing, for example, a webinar on benefits for these rare communities, we could be doing that together. So there was obvious wins that you can get from working together and having those links anyway. So it really, you know, if you're looking around and saying, oh, there's these other small charities that are doing similar stuff to us, why don't we put in a Zoom once every 2 months? That's what it grew from. And then in those, you know, I think someone saw the National Lottery funding, and just want to highlight what, like, what a brilliant funder to put that fund out there that would fund this kind of resilience work and like fund the ability for these small organisations to fundraise more effectively in the future. It's quite, that kind of stuff, funding doesn't come up as often as anyone would like. So that was what then they started talking about. But I don't know if it would have been possible. It was possible because the alliance and the meetings already existed.
Yeah, that's really interesting because we've been doing something similar since during lockdown. That was the impetus for it, because we're all on our own during lockdown, so let's help
I think similar.
each other. But the others, what I think may have, they've been reluctant to take it any further, and there's a couple of us who are really sort of pushing it. So my question would be, do you think because there's lots of people with paid teams in this grouping that we have, I'm guessing it was a natural, do you think it was easier because the others are voluntary, so there's not so much political stuff going on?
Yeah, I think partly. I think there are different challenges. There's a lot of, you know, with the Aplastic Anaemia Trust, like leading on on lots of the work, like there's a lot of extra effort that you really see the Better Together team within the Aplastic Anaemia Trust is working for all of the other charities. So Vicky's here. Vicky is in that team as well, and Claire and Vicky and Hannah, like they absolutely represent those other charities in those roles. They're passionate about representing them. What I would say about the partnership is I wouldn't, as Claire said about like choosing the partners, you have to have quite a lot of trust and you have to have a huge amount of buy-in, and like it's a lot of work for the AAT to run this project, but like it's a huge amount of work for the small partners who are doing this in their spare time. We're talking about people who have got children with the rare condition and work full time in like difficult jobs and then do this in their spare time. It's incredibly inspiring for us to work with them and see the amount that they achieve with with such little resources, and being able to provide some of that. And they just have to be really enthusiastic about it. So I would say I would like start a second group of the people who really want to do it, rather than, as Claire exactly said, like don't just sort of be like, oh yeah, we'll include everyone obviously in this group, because when you get to the point they have to, you can't deliver it for them in their organizations. At the end of the day, they have to deliver it.
Oh, I love that idea. Thank you for that. That's really, really helpful. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or experience to share? I don't know if we've got anyone else who's done similar projects in the room, or Karen.
I put a couple of questions in the chat. I work in Lewisham, and I was employed alongside 3 other fundraisers to help Lewisham groups to fundraise. So part of my job is to work in partnership with others. So I think it's a bit like what you were saying with Vicky, you know, if that's what you've signed up to, you know, you've got to do it. So that kind of really does help. Yeah, what were your, as I'm trying to help other groups to work in partnership, like, have you got places where you can find things like terms of reference or some kind of contracts, or do you have to bring the lawyers in? Because I know that people are going to go, oh, we don't have money for that. So there's that balance between trying to save money, but also spending it wisely to prevent problems happening further down the line. And I did have another question, but I'll let other people speak.
That's really interesting. So we're quite fortunate. One of the members of the partnership has a background in being a lawyer. I'm not sure exactly what her background is, so I'm going to describe it wrong, but she has she has experience in writing up contracts, and so she was really valuable in helping to write up the agreement and the partnership. So that was not something that we had to spend money on, but also that like the funding, we were, Bridget, who wrote the bid, was very clear on putting a lot, like stuff. If we had to pay for something for the project, we put it's in the bid. We asked the National Lottery for the money for it, and that's it's so important, because otherwise the Aplastic Anaemia Trust would end up paying for it, and then we're spending Aplastic Anaemia Trust funds on something that actually benefits 7 different other communities. So as like sort of CEO, you have to sort of keep an eye on that as well, to make sure that we've all got our charity remits. We're all here to to support a specific community. So that side of it is quite important. It's quite complicated. I think, yeah, I think if there's extra expense like that and there's something you don't know how to do for this funding, you would put that in the bid and say we will need to pay a lawyer to come in and draw up the partnership agreement to make sure everyone's happy with them. Sorry, you said you had other questions and I didn't write them down.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, I was writing down what you just said. That's why there was a bit of a delay there. So I was asking about the digital stuff. So we're using SharePoint, but some of the other partners are finding that a bit fiddly. If they've not got MS Office, it seems to have authentication issues. So have you got like any, like, this digital tool really helped us, like we've got to join MailChimp, you know, all of those digital things. I think, especially like you were saying in your case, you're working all remotely. Are there any digital tools that you would recommend?
Do you have any?
Yes, I mean, well, the main digital tool that we are using is SharePoint, and so we've developed what is a central information hub. So that is the space where we are sharing all of our project resources, and we just developed a very simple step-by-step guide to allow people to sign up. So we've hit a couple of glitches, but we've managed to very simply overcome them. I know it does create issue where people have got multiple SharePoint accounts that they have to access, but the partners have actually managed to very successfully integrate using this system. So yeah, that's the key platform that we're using for the project currently.
Yeah, Sal's mentioned Google Docs in the chat, which is something I've used in previous organisations. I think it's smoother and easier to use. I think some IT people will stress out about how secure it is, and that's not about Google being secure, it's about how easy it is to accidentally make something really public. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. It depends, it's sort of, you know, it depends how confidential the stuff is that you're sharing, but if you're putting, like, if you're running a patient advisory group and you've got all their details in there, like, it needs to be secure. That's the other thing that we've put in place GDPR agreements, so for everyone, because, and we have to make it really clear, you know, often we'll be running an event at the Aplastic Anaemia Trust, but people from PNH support telling you to sign up. So it needs to be really clear that when you sign up for that event, the Aplastic Anaemia Trust are going to get your data because it's run on our website. So like that has been a knotty bit of it. But Emma Inslee, who's the consultant we've brought on, is really good on GDPR. So again, that's something that sort of, we've got the resources and the skills in the delivery team to muddle through that in the bid. There's a question about other digital tools. So we use Canva, we meet on Teams. Rosie has asked about any comment on the number of partners you worked with. So is it harder to have more? Would it be better to keep to fewer? Claire, what do you think? You're the one running it in practice.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to comment too fully because we've only had the 7. It hasn't varied. I think there's certainly, from my perspective, if we had one or two partners missing, the central workload definitely wouldn't increase. Setting up your frameworks and your systems and processes, that workload kind of stays the same no matter how many people you're working with. I think at the moment, thinking about like the resilience plans that we're putting in place, you know, we could probably go to another 1 or 2 and it be sustainable for the size of delivery team that we've got. So you've got myself that's working full time, then the project officer is half a week, community support lead is 1 day a week. So that's at the moment is a sustainable model for the 7 partners that we've got. I don't think shifting too far away from that would be sustainable with the current delivery team size. So I think if you shifted much larger, you'd need to think about increasing the funds and therefore the support centrally. But yeah, I think sort of, you know, I think 6 to 8 certainly would feel very sustainable with this size project delivery team and the funding we've got to support that.
Sorry, I keep muting myself because helpfully a large pneumatic drill that started off up next door. I don't know if you can hear that. Someone has made another comment. Joanna's flagged there's a partnership agreement template, which is a free resource on the National Lottery Community Fund website. Yeah, lots of this is out there. People leaving. I think I've covered all the questions from the chat, but please flag and please speak up and put your name up if there's anything else that anyone would like to ask. Cool. I will put I'll just put my email in the chat. If anyone would like to email me for any like specific questions or more context, we'd really like to support other charities with doing this. I think it's so valuable, and as I said at the beginning, I think that kind of spirit of collaboration so important. It's like it makes us stronger as small organizations if we can work together. So if anybody is interested in chatting to us about that, let us know. Drop me an email and I can pass it on to Claire if I don't know the answer, because she's the person doing all the work. Thanks everyone. I think we're done. Claire, is there anything else Vicky, would you like to say anything? Put you on the spot. We've got 5 minutes. So.
Okay, I'm always happy to talk. No, I just want to say that something that that has really surprised me is just how keen everybody is to collaborate. You know, we work alone in our own little silos and we bang away thinking that we're the only one that's doing this thing, and then suddenly you realize that actually there's this huge amount of charities out there that they all want to provide support to their charities, to their communities. They all want to be resilient. They all want to support their communities with, you know, with emotional well-being support. And what's great about this project is it doesn't just work for our, you know, alliance of seven partners, but actually we could all be collaborating in so many ways. And I just think it's a wonderful project, and I feel very proud to be part of it. And Ellie means what she says, by the way, about sharing generously. And yeah, if you do have any questions at all, don't be afraid to jump on and ask her.
Thanks everyone. We're absolutely delighted with this turnout. And one final shout out to the National Lottery, and thank you for funding this project. It's mind-blowing to think that there's a funder out there with the imagination and the capacity and the will to support something like this that really is going to make such a long-term difference. It's the kind of funding that we all dream of, so we're really excited about it. It's brilliant. Thank you everyone for coming. Do get in touch and look forward to see you at other Small Charity Week things this week.